Like every young child, I spent a lot of time trying to figure out what is race. And when I was a kid, I had pretty much boiled it down to three things. Number one, my hair, different from all the white girls' hair. White girls put their hair in a ponytail, it swang from side to side. I put my hair in a ponytail, it bounced up and down. Okay? The second thing I thought I had figured out was white people love cats. And I knew white people loved cats because every now and again, a little white kid would come to school with scratches on their arms. And we would say, "What happened?" And they would say, "Oh, it was my cat." I've never understood this love, but it seemed a love that only white people possessed. The third thing that I thought I was learning about race was that even though we might use the same language for certain foods, we were not talking about the same thing. In my mother tongue, macaroni, very specific. And I would go to a white person's house and they would say, "We're going to have macaroni." And that macaroni was not baked, friends. I heard white people say, "We're going to have yams," and I would be expecting the candied version. I was trying to figure it out, like most kids are trying to figure it out. The way that I learned what race really means in America happened in a library. My mom, my brother, and I had gone, like we usually did, on a very regular basis, and I gave my library card to the librarian. And the librarian said, "Is this your card?" And I said, "I think so." She said, "This card says Austin." I was like, "Oh, I see what's happening here. You thought I was going to be a boy. It's okay. Yes, my name is Austin. That's my card." She said, "Are you sure?" Well, no, I'm offended, friends, because I'm trying to check out some library books. Clearly, I can read. If I can read, I think I probably know my own name. So in all of my probably 8-year-old indignity, I marched over to my mother and said, "Ma, why did you give me this name?" And she said, "Well, Austin, it's from your family, you know, your great-grandparents." I said, No. I said, "I know where it came from. I'm asking why you chose it." And she sat me down, and she got her black mama voice on, which is about 3 octaves lower than it should be, right? And she said, "Well, Austin, had you been a boy, you would have been a junior. But because you were a girl, we didn't have a name picked out." She said, "One of us said Austin, and we loved it immediately because we knew that once you were filling out applications for things later in life, people would assume you were a white man." What do you do with that at 8? She said, "One day you're going to have to fill out college applications and job applications. You might have to fill out paperwork to own a home," and on and on. And she said, "We wanted to make sure you made it to the interview." Now, like any black mother, she then decided to give me the pep talk and said, "Now you are a bright, charming, charismatic, lovely, right? We know you'll charm the socks off in an interview." And she repeated herself, "But we had to make sure you got to the interview." Dear friends, that's how I learned what race really means in America. And so, since a child, I have been trying to figure out this whole race thing. What do we do about racial justice in this country? And today, I would like to propose to you that it's twofold. I would suggest that we are doing part of the work now. I'm not handing out any gold stars. But we are beginning to deal with the legacy of white supremacy. We are beginning to name it. The fact that I can say the term white supremacy and not wonder if a bodyguard needs to escort me out is progress. We have all kinds of words that we didn't have when I was a kid. White privilege, white tears, white fragility. We are beginning to figure out how to name whiteness. And that's an important part of the equation. Because the lie of racism is that white people are better, best, right, holier than everyone else. But the second lie of racism is that black folks are inferior. And we're not doing such a great job with undermining, undercutting that lie. And whether we want to admit it or not, though what you think in your head might be God created everyone equal, my question to you today is, do you believe that with your heart? That God created everyone in the divine image of God. Our society would suggest that we do not believe that. Because we do not love black people with a reckless love. We love black people with a conditional love. You see, we love blackness as long as it is kicking a football or dancing on a stage. We love blackness as long as it is making money for us in the music industry. We love blackness as long as it is articulate and upstanding, as long as it is contributing to the world. We love blackness conditionally. I am amazed at how often in the last 5 or so years we have had the killing of an unarmed black man. And the rhetoric in response has been, well, what did he do wrong? Well, maybe he shouldn't have resisted. Well, maybe he should have stopped. Well, maybe he should have obeyed. Well, maybe he should have ... Because our love for blackness is conditional. If we really believed in the dignity, the inherent dignity of black people, we would be unable to sleep at night if we really believed it. If we really believed that God created black folks in the image of God's self, we would not be able to stand mass incarceration. If we really believed that black people are created in the image of the divine, our education system would be intolerable. If we had a reckless love for black people, we wouldn't be so scared to post 3 words on our Facebook page. Black lives matter. Choosing to cultivate a reckless love for black bodies will require courage, but hear me good, it shouldn't. It shouldn't. when I became a mother, I was on my way to the hospital. 4 o'clock in the morning. So rude. So rude. And my husband and I were not having conversations about his name. We were not having conversations about who he might look like. We were not having conversations about cribs or his room or our first Christmas together. We were having conversations about what we would do if something went wrong with my labor and doctors didn't believe me. You see, so often in current political times, we battle about racial justice. We battle over words. Should we be using the word white supremacy? We battle over whether or not mass incarceration is really a problem. We battle over what we think of as ideological themes. But racial injustice is impacting real lives. Racial injustice is killing real bodies. Racial injustice is about the survival of blackness. And I want you to know today that while naming whiteness is good work, it is not the end of the work. It's only one side. If you believe in a reckless love for all of humanity, then you must also participate in undoing the lie of black inferiority. There is nothing wrong, nothing inherently bad about black families. There is nothing inherently wrong with black fathers. There is no inherent black gene that makes us more criminal. There is no inherent black gene that makes us less interested in education. Racism is a lie. Racism is a lie. But I want to suggest to you today that it is not good enough simply to acknowledge that white people are not, in fact, superior to anybody else. We must do the hard work, the courageous work of saying Black lives matter. Black lives matter in the classroom. Black lives matter even when they have committed a crime. Black lives matter whether they are perfect or not. Black lives matter when little black boys are just being little black boys and little black girls are just being little black girls and little black children are just trying to figure some things out. Do our lives matter only conditionally? Only when they serve the interests of whiteness? Do Black lives matter only when we show up as perfect? Do Black lives matter only when we are entertaining, only when we fill a football field, only when we bounce a basketball on a court, only when we produce music that you like, only when we dance the way you want us to dance through life? I don't want to know what you think. I want to know what you believe about Black lives. Because it is out of that deep belief that your words around Blackness will matter, that your policies around Blackness that you vote for will matter, that the policies that you settle for will matter, the policies that you vote for will matter. What do you believe? Is there space in your heart, in your mind, in your life for the deep belief that all humans are created in the image of the divine and therefore have an inherent dignity that must be honored and must be given a reckless love? Because for centuries, dear friends, my people have paid a price. for a conditional love, for conditional friendship, for conditional co-working spaces, for conditional neighborliness. The truth is that we have all of us, if you grew up in America, have been indoctrinated with a centuries-old belief that God created some humans better than others. And that belief was so ingrained that it allowed for the enslavement of a whole people group. That's how convinced our society was of inherent difference. Will you have the courage in your life to do the hard work of undoing, dismantling a theology that has been poisonous to you, to me, to our society? And will you decide that it's time for a reckless love, that it's time to move from head to heart, that it is time to realize that in America, our language needs to change. We need to create some new worlds because we have been grossly impacted by the world of slavery and redlining and segregation, grossly impacted by the world of mass incarceration and unequal education, grossly impacted by separate voting booths and voting privileges. Our society is still bearing the marks of what we have believed as a society about Blackness. And only focusing on whiteness is only half the battle. Will we also say that Blackness is worthy of love without condition, because Blackness is an image of the divine, an image of the God you say you love? Will you believe with your whole heart that our music and our art and our intellect and our knowledge and our writing and even our mistakes are important to a full and whole society, that we are better because Blackness is here? Two sides, same heart, much fuller theology. Thank you.